UFC Flyweight champion Nicco Montano. How you doing?
I'm great.
So I got to talk to you before you went to the show. We didn't record that or anything, but we talked a little bit, and we said this was going to be great, that this was going to be a great experience for you. And you were kind of nervous, right?
Definitely.
So let's get started there. What was the tough experience itself like?
It wasn't as tough as a lot of people thought it was going to be, honestly. I went there thinking, I got to keep my head down, mind my own business, stay focused. I figured it was going to be super duper hard because there was going to be just cameras around and all of these instigators to try and just create drama. We didn't have our phones didn't have any music. We watched a couple of fights with Invicta in the UFC. But other than that, it was just us girls in front of a camera crew. So, they were trying to get the camera crew and the production team, they were great, but they obviously wanted some reality TV kind of work. But for the most part, all the girls just kept to themselves and kept to their training and kind of just took the experience for what it was to them. I definitely took it as an eye-opener in what my capabilities were. I could hang in there with the toughest girls, and it was a great experience for me.
What was that like mentally, just even those first couple of fights with Lauren and Ariel, and realizing right away where your skills are at and having tough tests?
Right, so I had to fight Lauren first, and I was like, oh gosh. I can either look at it, two ways. I'm going to get pounded by a vet, or I could beat a vet. So I went in there, and I just did what I was comfortable doing. With the team that I had, the blue team, and the coaches that I had with Gaethje, Matt, and Luke, and everybody, they really helped with the intellectual side, I suppose, of aspects and outcomings. So it was just simple as that. You're either going to look at it this way or that way. You're going to have a good time or a bad time. Go into it with the mindset that you feel comfortable and confident in. And I did, and I was going to accept the outcome for what it was going to be, and I won, and I was like, woo. So after that fight, I was like, okay, I can hang in here, I can do this, I can actually win, and that was my goal.
Now, post the show, start getting on Tough Talk, and we're seeing you everywhere. What was that like, taking on now this other side of the fight business? The fame side really started rearing its head in there.
This is the part that's overwhelming, because I feel like once you get in front of a crowd, there's a lot of people, for sure, including myself, if I'm not prepared for a fight, who will go in front of a crowd, a live audience, and be and freeze up, and have the jitters and not perform like they wanted to. I feel like that's how I am with talking to cameras still, even though I lived 6 weeks in front of a camera doing interviews and everything, and a lot of the questions that the production team was asking us is still the same questions I'm getting asked daily on these interviews, but I still don't have a distinct answer or anything. But it's a lot of fun. I get to learn a lot about myself and a lot of what my motivators are, and learn, how dedicated I am. I'm not talking myself up, but I definitely get to learn a lot about why I am the champ, and what it takes to keep being the champ. The more vocally I talk about it, it just brings it more to light to me.
There were these times you're the underdog. You're just this gritty girl. When you watch the season unfold, what were your thoughts watching the story that they were telling?
I was ranked number 14. To me, it doesn't matter. You're either going to win or going to lose. And that's just the name of the game. You can either look at it like that, or you can look at it as you're going to succeed, or you have a chance to try again. It's never technically win or lose for me. But watching the episodes when they came out, and then seeing how everybody was portraying me and saying I was just like this tough girl. I've only had a few pro fights compared to a lot of the girls that were in there. And I've only fought twice at 125. And so, watching the show and everyone talking about my lack of technicality, and then just my grit and my toughness, my strength. You know, I'll take whatever I'll take whatever they say, and you know, as long as I stay strong, I suppose, mentally and physically, I can go wherever I want to be.
That was just the tip of the iceberg, what we saw on that show. That's one of the things. Out here locally, the radio show I go on, they were asking me, why'd you have all this faith in Nicco all the time? And I was like, well, did you guys see the leg kick she was landing when she won the King of the Cage title? You won a UFC title off of boxing and takedown defense, threw a couple body kicks out of what we saw you fight 4 times. We've seen the tip of the iceberg. This isn't the fighter I've watched fight like 8-9 times through your amateur and professional run so far. So how do you feel about that you still didn't show us everything you're capable of and you accomplished all this?
Yeah, right. It just goes to show that if you have the tools, you know, and the support, and like they said, the strength mentally and physically, then you can go, I can be where I want to be who I want to be. I know that I can do a lot better. This performance for sure. Everyone's like, congratulations. I'm walking around like, congratulations, you did great, you did great. And I'm like, it wasn't my best performance, but it was definitely the fastest fight I've ever fought. The volume with everything that Roxy and I had, our cardio put together, was just non-stop, and that made it so much fun. I do wish, though, you know, I do wish that I could start finishing girls like I did my amateur career. I had 5 fights, all finished in the first round, either submission or TKO, ref stoppage. So I would like to get back on that grind, you know, and really with injury with my foot, it might be the direction that I'm going to have to go anyway. Yeah, I've been a purple belt for about 3 years, so maybe that's something I should start working on too.
Getting back in the gi a little more?
Yeah, or just jiu-jitsu in general. Granted, I understand philosophies and ways of fighting, you know, and you don't normally win fights off of your back or anything like that, but just the strength behind it is something that comforts me, knowing that I can hang on to something or someone for 2 minutes and not be tired after that.
There was a mental strength also in everything that happened, not just going through the season, the 6 weeks, but the change of opponent at like the 11th hour. How do you process that? How did you find out that from Sarge it's going to be Roxanne?
After we cut weight, Sarge and I heard she got pulled back and was like, she's out of the game, and I was like, oh no, am I gonna have an opponent? Like, I just made weight for no reason. They're like, no, you're gonna have an opponent, don't worry. And I was like, okay. And at that point, it was just focusing on that, just maintaining that weight that I cut, going home, trying to sleep. And so the next day after we weighed in and we refueled, everybody was like talking, you know, it's gonna be Barb. I'm like, it's not gonna be Barb, I already fought Barb. And it's gonna be Lauren, because she doesn't have a fight. It's not gonna be Lauren, I already fought Lauren. And they're like, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. And the only person that I thought of was Roxy, because that makes sense, because there was Sarge and I, or Roxy and Sarge, and then Barb and I. And I had already fought Barb. Sarge is out. So I was like, it's going to be Roxy. And I was fine with that. You know, she's sharing a cage with the veterans such as Roxy, like her attitude, her discipline, her mindset. She, I think, looks at MMA the same way I look at it as artists. You know, you go in there, you have all these tools you've learned, and then you go in there and you're just like improv, like how good are your skills? And you know, that's the creative aspect of it, and that's what I really like about it. I don't like getting punched in the face or hurting other people, but then you get into this zone where you just see everything before it happens, you're on point, and I appreciate it, and I know she appreciates that side of it. We don't just go in there, even though it was just like the brawl, we stood there and we just threw punches. You know, it's a very fun sport, and I appreciate that she sees it that way, and both of us got to experience that together.
You beat yourself up for the performance. The fight was put together on a couple hours' notice. You might say that UFC fight looked more like just a regular brawl than anyone that we've ever seen, but then again, you both were fighting other people a couple hours before, so it kind of makes sense that there wasn't the greatest strategery ever.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. So, you know, you want to always be on top of your game. You always want to know, you know, anticipate what's coming. And with her, she's kind of funky, you know, with her style. So I definitely, when I heard that Sarge was out, I was like, okay, that's all right. I was training for Sarge, and Sarge is a tough girl and a tough opponent. So, you know, if I thought that coming into this fight I could beat Sarge, then I could beat anybody. And they said it was Roxy, and I was like, ooh, her arms are super long. She's really funky. She's like unorthodox. So in my head, I was just like, strategy changed to have cage control, because technically is her hometown, Vegas. Have cage control and make sure she doesn't outstrike me, because I know she's following you. I didn't know she was really good at her takedowns. You know, I got to spar a couple of times because we're on the same team. And I could feel her strength. She's not a girl who cuts too much to get to 125, so she has the strength, you know, the day of weigh-ins. She's not like depleted or anything. She doesn't do that to herself. So I knew it was going to be a tough, fast fight, and that's exactly what it was. And I think I held up to what I could do with the veteran, especially. And it was fun.
So, the moment that you hear the scorecards, Dana White's trying to put the belt around your waist, what's going through your head right there?
Oh, I had no idea. I was so excited because I heard the scorecards and I was like, oh, I won. Then I heard the scorecards and I was like, oh, I might have not won. Dang it. And then I hear fighting out of Albuquerque, and I was just like, ah! Just like let loose. It was so, I don't, like, it was just not even overwhelming. Like you know, you like that feeling of accomplishment. I was in camp before going into the tough house to cut the weight, to be on weight in the tough house, to potentially make weight 3 times in 6 weeks. And then right after you get out, I was like, okay, I'm in another camp. I'm in the camp of my life. Like, not everybody gets to be like, okay, I've had 6 fights, 6 pro fights, and now my 7th fight might potentially make me the UFC champion of the world, the first flyweight champion of the world. And so I was like, okay, don't start thinking this stuff, but then it starts to get a hold of your mind, and then you're like, oh gosh, get it out, because then you can't really do anything. So all of that was in my head, and I was just like, you did it, you know, you finally did it. You've been working so hard for it, and only I know how hard I worked.
Well, I've been paying attention to Instagram. We all knew something was up with how much you were working those kettlebells.
Yeah, right. So I was just like, this is amazing. It's amazing. I think my post-fight speech was pretty funny. It's like, I love you, it's amazing, I love you. Just sending out the love to everybody.
You were on cloud 9.
It was. I definitely was.
What was that like, going home and going on this championship tour that you've been on?
I went home and I was like, okay, I'm going to decompress on the res. Nobody knows me, or everybody knows me, and everyone's just super chill about it. But then I go home and they're like, surprise parade, and I'm all like pounded in still. I was like, thank you guys, like, thank you so much. Sorry, no pictures, but I appreciate what my community did. You know, it was like they just got it together last minute, and it was a gift to me to show me how much of an inspiration I've been to them. Which is still kind of mind-blowing for me, because I'm like, you know, if I could do it, anybody could do it. Really, really. It's serious. That's how I feel.
You still don't believe that you're special?
You know, like, as long as you stay dedicated and work hard, I mean, you're gonna get what you want. If you don't take any shortcuts, and you go into your fights with that confidence, knowing that you've done everything you could do. You know, you don't worry, you don't focus on anything that's out of your control. Otherwise, it just brings more stress, and then you start to jeopardize what you're capable of doing, and then you just start to shut yourself down. So just whatever you're capable of doing, do it, and that's it. Leave it at that. That's how I look at it, and I think everybody's capable of doing that, and I think they just get influenced by whether it's social media or other people's ideas of how they should be, and then they just start to think too much, and they don't, instead of even trying, they sabotage themselves and don't even try. When they could have been the best, they just never do it. So yeah, it's been great. I have a couple of schools I want to go and talk to, Chinle High School being one of them, Saley Public School, Lucas Guy. All these ones out on the res, because that's where I came from. You know, all the teachers out there who inspired me, I like to help them out with their students now. I know how much of a troublemaker I was, just for a little bit though, not like throughout my career of schooling, but I can definitely see my generation changed from the motivational speaks that a bunch of generations before us came to the school and talked to us about. You know, we had like Pax Harvey, he's a great motivational speaker now. Tatanka Means, he lives here in Albuquerque, he's great at that too, but just knowing that they made it helped me just say, okay, do it. You know, you never know unless you try.
You've hit the ground running with being a role model champion. Same in the way that I'd say Rose Namajunas has done it. We got enough promotional hype men around the MMA industry. It seems like for WMMA, you guys have really more taken on, I'd say, an old-fashioned meaning of what being a champion is. How are you able to do that right away, get that title belt on your shoulder? And we're already here talking about how you recognize that you are a role model and how you want to be an influence for your community, and it just speaks volumes about who you are. Mm-hmm. So how did you do that, like mentally?
Honestly, I think growing up on the res, I don't want to keep like bringing it back to there. I have so many people to thank outside the res, but I am who I am because of my culture, because of how I grew up, because of it was okay to think spiritually, it was okay to think outside the box, it was okay to think intellectually, it was okay to think be in reality, it was okay to think about the future, it was okay to be in the moment. Like my family is just so good about letting us be who we are and then accepting that. They're not like, you shouldn't think this way, you shouldn't think that way. They're just like, yeah, sure, whatever puts a smile on your face.
A lot of what happens in life is about timing. I think that the Ultimate Fighter and everything, it was the right timing. Yeah. And it was even assigned to you, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah. I was about to peace out and go back to school at the fort, and I was like, well, I'm going to give this a try. And then I ended up staying, and then I ended up staying in the house, going to the house, and I was like, okay, well, school's going to be off for this semester at least. Maybe I'll go back in the fall, or the spring. And then I did the house, and I got to meet a bunch of girls who kind of were on the same length as I was, you know. It might have just been because they took away a lot of our phones and TV and distractions like that. We just started talking to each other. It was never like walking through the halls, like dogging each other out and being like, I'm gonna kick your ass. Like, it was not like that at all. But all of us were just super grateful to be there, and all of us were just super happy to be sharing what WMMA is now. And it's absolutely, I feel like, about the art, the martial art aspect. It's not just like, I'm a struggling fighter, I'm gonna come in here and I just want to fight. I just want to fight. Like, there's that aspect too, but that whole side of, martial arts, Mr. Miyagi.
The true martial artist kind of path and way.
Exactly. There's a balance. There's that balance that you have to stay healthy mentally after fights. If you lose it, you know what's gonna happen.
This is a lifestyle, like, full encompassing, right?
Yes, full encompassing, and I absolutely can relate it to a lot of things, so I appreciate that this timing happened when it happened, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to experience everything I am and really believe that my beliefs are, and my faith is what, got me here.
Dumbfounded when I heard you were thinking about possibly taking another. I'm like, wait, she just won a world title. She looked freaking spectacular, and maybe I'm done. What? I can't be the only one that had that same reaction. I was quite surprised when you were thinking about maybe this wasn't what you wanted to do.
Oh, fighting?
Yeah.
After I won the world title?
No, before. Well, after you won the
yeah.
King of the Cage title, but before the UFC title.
Right.
When you were having that thought. I can't be the only one that was like, no, keep going at this.
You're kind of good, sticking it.
Yeah.
I'm just the kind of person who doesn't put all my eggs in one basket, Like, I love fighting. I obviously do. I've tried to leave it so many times because I'm like, I have this injury, I have that injury, I'm going to be blind when I'm 6. Like, I'm just like, I can't do this to my body, so I'm going to peace out. But then I'm always just like, okay, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back. And I think it's because of that balance, It's that push, the limit that I push my mind space, my body to, knowing that I can achieve these daily goals that I set, or these fights in my amateur career, through my pro career. The beginning of it, I'd be like, get a new takedown every fight, at least do that. And then you do it and you're like, oh. It's like if you were freaking, and like an art, like some sort of something in your career and you get that tiny like pat on the back, like great, or you got promoted, you know, like whatever your passion is, and then you see it in front of your eyes unfold, that it's like, oh, that is exactly what I want to do, and I succeeded at it. Like that's great. And I find that with guitar, I find that with any, like, I can put that passion to a lot of other things, but MMA does always just is like in the back of my head, especially now. I've been out for about a month because of my injuries, and so I'm like trying to play guitar. I love it for sure. I'm drawing, I'm doing all this creative stuff, you know. I'm like, okay, it's the artist in me.
You're bored.
But then I'm like, I come into here and I'm like, oh, that X guard pass? Oh, I can do that. Let me try and show you. And I'm over here in a boot and I'm like, I can't, I gotta sit down. Or like, you know, just some sort of movement. It always comes from my foot, and I'm like, well, I can't really pivot right now because I'm in a boot. But yeah, I wouldn't say MMA isn't for me. I just would say, you know, I can find my happiness in a lot of other things as well.
Let's say it's a piece.
Yeah,
it's a piece of the whole puzzle.
It is. I've learned a lot via MMA. I've learned a lot.
And I definitely think it's better that you have all these different outlets, because you can't live and die just totally in what's going on in our MMA universe.
And that's exactly how I feel. I'm like, yeah, I'm obviously not going to fight. No one can fight till they're 60. No one can fight till they're 50, you know? So why be like, this is who I am, this is the only person I am, and then once I'm done with it, just be completely, I'm just lost in my identity, I'm just lost in who I am. Like, why do that to myself? You know, like, this is a part of what I love to do, absolutely, but I am who I am with or without it. But it definitely amplifies, and it's definitely a centrifuge for my love and my passion. It's like the easiest way for me to show that is MMA.
Well, we talked about keeping you away from MMA right now is the injuries. What kind of update are you allowed to give us?
I'm supposed to be in the boot for about a month, which is going to end next week. So after I have my appointment, I'll have more information.
Next thing everybody wants to know. Who do you want to fight next? Who do you want to be the challenger for your first title defense?
I want Sarge, man. I want that house to just be X'd out, you know? There's so many other girls who want to come down, but I can't leave this in the past just yet. I've got to know that I was the tough finale winner. I got to know that, you know what I mean?
It's unfinished business?
Yes, it's unfinished business.
Now, there's other names that have been brought up, and it slowly but surely sounds like Paige, Valentina. They are all getting fights scheduled at 125.
Yeah.
So has that opened up the horizons to possibly even thinking of those matchups now?
Yeah, I mean, I do want to fight the best. I would love to fight those girls, but it's up to the matchmakers, and it's up to who wins their next fight. You know, I'm sure we're going to do that later on down the road. I plan on staying in the fight career as long as I can until I'm pushed out. So I think Paige has a fight with Jessie Jess next, and obviously it's not going to be fair if she loses and then they're like, no, you have a shot at the title. So like I said, it's just got to be put in, it's determined to be determined.
With the injuries, it's not even time to talk about this right now, right? You have something else that you're focused on, and it's a recovery process right now.
Exactly. Everyone's like, why aren't you working out? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, you know, and I'm doing the protocol right now, which is stay off of it for a month, and then I'm going to jump into doing what I can do. I'm going to keep doing whatever it is that makes me happy, and right now it's fighting.
You're on a couple short lists now. World champions in combat sports from New Mexico. World champions, inaugural world champions from the UFC. You joined that list of names with Ronda Rousey and with Carla Esparza and Jermaine Dorado made the inaugural champions.
Right.
You're in the history books. Does
Right.
that hit you?
Yeah, like that I've accepted. That's you know, that not very many people can say within 7 fights that they're here. So I'm absolutely appreciative. I have to stay humble though. Like it's not only who I am, but it's like, you know, if I look at it any other way, then I'm gonna be just the worst person ever, you know, with the ego. So So it's definitely hit me, but I'm super proud of what I've done, but I know I'm capable of more.
What was the photo like? We know that you had the glasses on because you didn't want to show the shiner off, but you're in front of the mountains, you got the mesa behind you, you're posing with the title. That is the picture of the champion that is in my mind for you winning. What was that moment, that picture, what does that represent to you?
So that was after the parade, and we were like, okay, we have to go because it's just getting crazy. It was like Selena, like when she was singing on stage, the whole crowd was just like pushing against the fence, and everybody was just like hitting. I was like, this is nuts. Let's go. And then, and so me and my aunt, a couple of cousins, just hopped in her truck, and then we cruised the back roads of Legeche because we were like, we gotta lose him. We're losing him. And then we just like pulled over. I was like, I want a picture of the mountains in the background because I got some canyon pictures or Monument Valley pictures with my KOTC belt, but I still haven't like brought any pictures back to Legeche. So I was like, let's just do it with this in the background. And my cousin got her new phone, and she's like, oh, I'll put it on portrait mode. Let's try it. And so we're just taking pictures here and there. Then we saw that one, and I was like, that's perfect. Like you see it and you're like, boom, because she's like, don't look at me, your face is all like wonky, look off. And I was like, okay, like this, and she's like, sure. And then we look at it and we're like, that's perfect. So that is definitely how I want people to see the champion, fully clothed in nature, in the hometown, and wearing that belt like a boss.
Have you been able to implement and push forward with your opinion of what you want a champion and a role model to look like?
Yeah, I think I have. I definitely think I have. It's kind of my pursuit to just, like I was saying before, to let people know that I'm basically an avatar, I suppose. They could be a champion if they just stuck to it. If they just keep doing that, they could be where I am and who I am. It's not necessarily me being like, I love my fans. Like without my supporters, I wouldn't be here. Without their love, I wouldn't be able to have the platform that I have. I wouldn't be able to have anything to talk about, or be appreciative about. So I just hope, that they know that they really can do this if they really believe in themselves. That's the hardest thing, is believing in themselves.
Once again, congratulations, my friend. You're a world champion.
Thanks, Micah.